So we're in the northwest of England, and our current client has asked us to process and remove the Japanese knotweed from site because they're looking at building a new distribution unit. There's a large area of knotweed which we need to process. So at this particular job, we're looking at processing a couple of thousand cubic metres, and it's going to take us probably about 2 to 3 months to get through that. To give you an example of how knotweed spreads with the rhizome material, the site that we're on here now, you can see this palisade fence is network rail land. You can see the knotweed on the bank at the top, and that's been there for a long time. When you look at the historic photos on Google Earth, you can see that this area is actually an open and clear site. So there wasn't originally, 30 years ago, any knotweed here. The knotweed's encroached through the fence, and then the people that owned the land before have levelled this area out to use it, not knowing that they've spread knotweed out onto the site, and then that's progressively spread across the site over the last 25, 30 years. And we've ended up with the problem that we've got today. So when we excavate knotweed to take it away off site, what we do is we do a process called root tracing. So rather than dig a defined hole, what we're actually doing is we're looking for the rhizome, and then when we've got all of the rhizome out, effectively that area is then clear. The rhizome is very easy to spot because it's a bright orange colour, it's a little bit like a carrot. So it's very easy to spot once you actually know what you're looking for. The root tracing process, you can actually see generally when there's no hard standing in the way, we'll usually go down to the clay level. Knotweed doesn't really like clay, so you won't find a lot of it in there. This area that we've got over here is part of an old mill floor. So the knotweed is actually going through some of the cobble sets. We're actually just removing that so we can get the cobble sets out, so we can see where we're going with it. The idea of using the ditching bucket basically is where Mike stood behind, is he can see any rhizome that stays in the soil. And an example of that is this bit here, where you can see the orange rhizome that's still in the ground that we've got to take out. It tells us exactly where the plant is and what direction the root system is going. When you're excavating and people say, well, what's the difference between the tree root and a Japanese knotweed root? When you have a tree root, basically it will bend and flex. It's very difficult to snap a tree root because of the structure of it, whereas Japanese knotweed's actually slightly different. So it may look similar, but the difference is what we call the carrot test. And the carrot test is it snaps immediately like that, and then you can see the very obvious orange colour of the rhizome. Once the material's been excavated, depending on the size of the job, depends on what we offer the client to do as the next option. If there's only a small amount of material, we can actually take that straight off site and it'll go to landfill and we don't process it. But in order to save the client money and do the job more efficiently, what we'll actually do is we'll process this material and it goes through what we call a trommel screener. The trommel screener has effectively what's like a large washing machine. It processes all the soil and small fines and separates them out, so you get clean soil out of the machine, and then the processed material goes out the back. So as you can see here now, the clean fines, which is the topsoil, comes out of that side, and this is all clean material that can be reused on site. The other processed material that you can see that comes out, which has got all the bricks and stone in it, that will then be riddled down again so that more of the material will come out. And you can see over there the pile of clean bricks that have been processed for the third time, which we can then reuse on site. This process allows us to remove a very, very small amount of knotweed to landfill, as opposed to taking all of that material off collectively. So it's a lot more cost effective for the client.